All right, let's talk about data clustering. Now, I know that might sound a little intimidating, but honestly, at its core, it's just like a task we've all done before, sorting a giant messy pile of building blocks.
So picture this. You've got this huge pile of blocks, all different shapes, sizes, colors just jumbled together. Now your job is to bring some order to that chaos. What do? Do you sort them by color or maybe by size? How about by shape? You see, the way you answer that question, well, it changes everything. And that is the exact same challenge a clustering algorithm faces with data.
Well, in the world of data science, that sorting strategy you just came up with, it's got a name, a criterion function. Just think of it as the official rulebook for the job. It's basically a math formula that gives a score to any arrangement you make, telling the algorithm exactly what a good pile of blocks or a good cluster of data is supposed to look like.
So what's the most common rule in that book? You know, the first one most people reach for. It's pretty straightforward, actually. Make the tightest, most compact piles you possibly can. The main goal is to get rid of as much empty space as you can within each of your little groups. Now, the most popular way we measure this tightness is with a rule called the sum of squared errors, or just SSE. Here's how it works. It finds the exact center of a pile, measures the distance of every single block to that center, squares those distances, and then adds them all up. So a really low SSE score means your blocks are all huddled together nice and tight. You've made some beautiful compact piles.
Okay, here's where it connects to some more formal lingo. Bear with me, it's not as scary as it sounds. Minimizing that SS score is mathematically the exact same thing as minimizing something called the trace of the within cluster scatter matrix. I know, it's a mouthful. But all it really means is you're squishing down the overall spread, or variance, inside each and every one of your piles. Same goal, just, fancier words.
But hang on, what if your blocks aren't all round? That trace rule, the one we just talked about, it works great when you're expecting nice, round, spherical piles. But what if you're sorting long, skinny bricks? For that, we've got a different rule, the determinant criterion. See, it doesn't care so much about width and height, it cares about the pile's total volume. And this is absolutely crucial, because real-world data isn't always neat and round. Think about it. A group of customers might be really narrow in age, but super wide in how much they spend. So choosing your rulebook really depends on the shape of the groups you expect to find. Okay, so making tight piles is an awesome start, but it's not the whole story, not even close. A really good sorting job also means making sure the piles themselves are clearly separated from each other. You gotta mind the gaps.
And look, here's why this is a huge deal. You could follow that tight pile rule perfectly and still end up with a total mess. Yeah, your individual piles might be super compact, but if they're all smushed together and overlapping, have you really sorted anything? Or have you just made a bunch of tiny, neat messes? You need a rule that also thinks about the space between the piles.
And enter the ratio criterion. This rulebook is a bit more sophisticated. It's doing two things at once. It wants to push the piles as far apart as possible, that's maximizing the scatter between them. But at the same time, it wants to keep the piles themselves tight. That's minimizing the spread within them. It's this incredible balancing act, right? Make the piles tight, but also push them away from each other. The goal here isn't just about being tidy, it's about creating truly distinct, meaningful groups.
And not everyone plays by these rules. There are totally different philosophies out there. Some methods are probabilistic, like a Gaussian mixture model. Instead of saying a block is in a pile, it calculates the probability, the chance, that it belongs to each pile. This gives you more nuance, right? For when a block could kind of fit in a couple of places. Then you have graph-based methods, like normalized cut. They imagine all these invisible connections between the blocks and then try to find the best places to snip those connections to create these separate, really tight-knit communities.
All right, let's switch gears and look at a completely different way of doing things. Instead of just making a set number of piles, what if we built a family tree for our blocks? Something that shows us how every single block relates to every other one, from the bottom up. Welcome to the world of hierarchical clustering.
The process here is actually pretty simple and kind of elegant. First, you start by treating every single block as its own tiny individual pile. Then you look at all the piles and find the two that are closest to each other, based on your rule, of course, and you merge them. Then you just do it again and again. You keep merging the two closest piles until, at the very end, you're left with one giant super pile that has everything in it. Okay, so the million-dollar question is, how do you define closest? This is where these linkage rules come in. and they are a huge deal. Single linkage says closest means the two nearest blocks in any two piles. This tends to create these long, stringy, snake-like chains. Complete linkage is the total opposite. It looks at the two farthest blocks, which gives you more compact, spherical piles. And then there's average linkage, which, just like it sounds, takes a nice, robust compromise by looking at the average distance between all the blocks.
And there's one more really important merging rule you should know, called Ward's method, and it ties right back to our very first concept, the sum of squared errors. At every single step of the process, Ward's method looks at all the possible merges it could make, and it picks the one that will cause the smallest possible increase in the total messiness, or the SSE. It's basically obsessed with keeping the piles as tight as possible the whole way through.
All right, let's pause here, because this next point is super important. It is really easy to confuse the rules you use during the sorting process with the score you give the final result. But trust me, they are two very different things.
The criterion functions we've been talking about this whole time, SSE, the ratio, the linkage rules, those are the optimization criteria. They're the live instructions, the rulebook the algorithm is following while it's actually doing the work. Evaluation metrics, on the other hand, that's the final inspection. That's after all the sorting is done, you step back and you use a metric to grade how well the algorithm did. Sometimes you even get to use an answer key.
So for example, there's a metric called purity. For this one, you need an answer key. It looks at one of your final piles and asks, okay, what percentage of these blocks actually belong together according to the real answer? But what if you don't have an answer key? Well, then a metric like the silhouette coefficient is your friend. It gives every single block a score based on how well it fits in its own pile compared to how it would fit in the next closest one. It's a way of judging the result on its own terms.
And that brings us to this really fascinating final thought. There's no single universally best rulebook. There just isn't. The criterion you choose, whether you're telling the algorithm to look for tight circles or long chains or really well-separated groups, that choice fundamentally defines the structure you're going to find. So the real question isn't just how do we sort the data, it's what kind of order are we even looking for in the first place? And the answer you give to that, well, that changes absolutely everything.